All right, welcome back to part three of the brain anatomy. I know it's a lot, but this is a really big and really important unit that I wanted to make sure we go through in nice small stages for you. So, welcome to part three. I swear this is the last one for standard two. Okay, we're dealing with the spinal cord. The spinal cord is this really misunderstood thing because people think it's just a big nerve, isn't it? No, it is a part of your central nervous system. It's still processing information. It's just outside of your skull. It's in your vertebrae, your vertebral column, inside your spinal column there. Okay. So anything the part of your central nervous system outside of your skull is now called your spinal cord. And it still does a lot of really important things for you. If you remember, this is coming right off the bottom of your brainstem. So we're talking about primal reactionary movements, and we call those reflexes. So when you touch something hot and you pull up your hand really quickly, or if you touch something that's pokey and you pull back without being able to consciously think through that, right? That is a reflex. That's being done by your spinal cord. And that's really its main job for this class. As long as you know that your spinal cord is dealing with reflexes, and it deals with reflexes at every single part of it as you go down. So as you go down your spinal cord, which is actually quite small, if you look at the size of your backbone, your spinal cord is just that little piece out of it. But at every single layer of your spinal column, it's doing its own integration of its own reflexes for that part of your body. That's how important those reflexes are to your survival. So don't underestimate them. Okay, next are meninges. Meninges are the protective covering areas of your brain. There's three layers of them. You don't need to memorize all three layers, but if you want to get ahead, go ahead. Dura matter is the durable layer on the outside. There's this thing called the arachnoid matter, um, which creates the subarachnoid space. We'll talk about that in a bit. And then the pia matter is this one cell thick, really thin coating that goes over the brain. If you go back to the brain video, you'll see that there's this, I don't know, opaque covering of the brain. That's pia matter. Right. These meninges provide protection. When these meninges break down, and we'll talk about this in the disease and disorder, that's when you get concussions. So meninges are there to make sure that your brain's not getting beat up inside of this skull as we walk around all day. All right. So meninges are the things keeping your brain safe. You should think of them as the padding around your brain. Right, cerebral spinal fluid is an additional safety measure inside your brain. Now, it does safety because it floats inside of that subarachnoid space. So it's in sandwiched in between all of the meninges, and it allows your brain to be elevated and resting in a fluid. And what that allows your brain to do is not get broken. You can try this at home. If you take an egg and put it into a jar and just thrash it, it will break, I promise. Okay. That's that one I promise. Now, if you put it in there and fill that entire jar full of water and then close the lid, see how much it takes before you can actually crack that egg. It's going to take a significantly more intense movement to cause that egg to crack because that water keeps it balanced in there, right? The other thing the cerebral spinal fluid does is it acts like blood. You can't allow blood to interact directly with your neurons. They're too delicate. They're doing too many important things to let some of the waste products just leak out of blood. We talked about how blood's kind of lazy, and at those capillaries, everything leaks out, and that's why the lymphatic system's there to drag everything back in. You can't have that in your brain. And so the cerebral spinal fluid actually takes the stuff that your brain needs from the blood. It goes into the cerebral spinal fluid. The cerebral spinal fluid will take it to all of your neurons. And so it circulates around your brain. So not only is there that water there to protect you, but that's a circulating system that's moving nutrients all around your brain to make sure it's getting into all of those little crevices to every single neuron inside your central nervous system. And that means it goes all the way down the spinal cord and back up, bringing everything that they need and taking away all those waste products, which then come from the neurons into the cerebral spinal fluid, and from the cerebral spinal fluid then into the blood and lymphatic system. All right. So get that stuff memorized, doing the pass off, and then we're on to disease and disorders. We're almost done.